You are listening to the e-flux podcast.
Hello, everyone. We're here in the e-flux screening room on the occasion of the screening of Ahmed El Maanouni's Trances, a film from 1981. And we will talk maybe a little bit about this film, but more generally about Ahmed's work and his trajectory. Ahmed, hello.
Hello, Omar.
I forgot to say I am Omar Berrada, and this is Ahmed El Maanouni with me. We are both from Morocco, though we have both spent a lot of time outside of Morocco, while always going back very regularly. Maybe I would like to start with something, Ahmed, when we were organizing this screening via email, and there was an email exchange with Christian Nyampeta, who founded the African Film Institute here at e-flux. You said something in an email to the effect that the African Film Institute sounds like home. What did you mean by that?
Well, this started in the late 60s, early 70s. We were outside of Africa. We were in Europe studying, most of us, and we were dreaming of the house Africa, our Africa. And each one of us had this dream of, we might call it Pan-Africanism, or of the land of the free, where we can express ourselves freely and we can create art, whatever, and talk politics, etc. And it has this dream of African house has accompanied me for such a long time. So when I heard that e-flux founded the African Film Institute, I said, this is home. This is home, what I feel at home, whatever it is. It's not especially in Brooklyn, but wherever there is African Film Institute or African house, I feel it's my house. I feel it's my home.
When you said we earlier, we in the late 60s, early 70s, who is we? Who were the people who were in your we in particular?
Oh, it was the great era of utopia, great era where we met as students, mainly from Africa, but also from Latin America and Asia. And we met either in universities or in NGOs, in the early beginning of NGOs. And I remember I was studying theater at that time at the International University of Theater.
Where was this?
It was in the Cité universitaire of Cité internationale de Paris.
De Paris, in Paris.
In Paris. And this Université internationale du théâtre, International University of Theater, was an emanation of Theater of the Nations. It's a very, very famous, started by Jean-Marie Serrault, bringing theater people from all around the world, and mainly from what we called that back then Third World. So I met there people as different as Jorge Lavelli, or people from Victor Garcia, or Tunisian artists like Fadel Jaibi, or people from Chile. And we all had this dream of showing our creations to, of course, to the audience, mainly students, etc., but also to show it in Africa. And we started many let's say projects, like doing groups, special groups, theater groups, writing together, directing, acting, etc., or we were publishing endeavors or founding magazines. And this was, it's also, I say, late 60s, beginning of the 70s. 1968 in France was a very important milestone for this. The European, and particularly the French audience, was craving of curiosity of our expression. There was no glass ceiling in that period, at that time. It was a genuine curiosity, and that helped a lot. That we could dreamly free and freely dream, and also we had the audience. So that led the freedom you get. The more freedom you get, let's say, the more productive you can be. So that helped me dreaming of my first film and writing it and then producing it with just 2 francs and then showing the film and going to places with the film, and then the first screening of the film, which was in Cannes Film Festival. I'm talking about Alyam Alyam. Was
this is 1978 at Cannes.
78, that's right, and that was the starting point of going back to Africa, to first Carthage in Tunisia, Carthage Film Festival.
The JCC.
Yeah, the JCC, and there I met the late Ousmane Sambène, Tahar Sharia, the late, who was a true Pan-Africanist, and
Tahar Sharia was a Tunisian man who founded the JCC, the Journée Cinématographique de Carthage,
right.
And who was very close friends with Sambène.
That's right. And then we met, this group was very active in in showing each other's films. And I talked to you about the magazine we started. It's called Cinéma Arabe, Afrique, Amérique Latine, Asie, discussing our films and showing them and being present. And discussing the films was very important. And discussing films like, I was talking about Haile Gerima film, Harvest 3000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have here, you sent me an issue of the magazine. It has a review you wrote of Harvest 3000 at the time.
That's right.
But if I go back a little bit, because you started with theater, you were a student of theater in Paris. That doesn't exactly explain how you ended up becoming a filmmaker. What was the transition for you between theater and cinema?
We have to go back even earlier, before. It was during my high school years in Casablanca. I discovered really very late theater. I must say that we had kind of a cine club in the high school, and it was a pain. It was painful to watch classic film, classic French film.
Here we're talking about, we're in the late 50s?
No, not that far, no. No, it was in 65.
Okay.
In 65, 66.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really painful because they were kind of mandatory that you'll discuss these old, for me, old black and white films like Les Visiteurs du Soir, Carnet film, and I was sweating, it was not a pleasure at all. So cinema was not my my cup of tea, and I discovered theater. Through a show of the Comédie Française with one of Molière's plays, and I discovered this play, and we had at the high school, our teacher organized a discussion with the actors, and so I said to myself, theater, writing for theater, not acting, but writing for theater is something that I should do. And I met this person, this teacher of theater of the Municipal Conservatory of Casablanca. She urged me to follow her courses at the conservatoire, and the courses were evening courses. And I was raised by my uncle, a very tough person, and who wouldn't allow me, of course, to follow theater courses. So I had to say that I had these free mathematic courses in the evenings. So I was permitted to follow the theater.
Leave the house.
Yeah, to leave the house. And one evening I was on the stage of this municipal conservatoire. I don't know, some monologue or something, and in front of me I saw the rear door open, and my uncle appeared, like the commander statute. And he came right away to me, took me by the ear, and he shouted to the teacher, "This is not mathematics, this is dancing," and said, "Come with me." And that was the end of it. So I went to Paris to study economics. So when I graduated from economics, I met people from this Université Internationale de Théâtre, and then I resumed my obsession with theater, my love with the theater, because it's really a passion. So I
think it's important to what you're recounting here, because I think it's important because if we think of that time period in our parts of the world, in Morocco, but in Africa in general, and also other parts of what was called the Third World, there was no model, really, right? Like there were very few models, and there was no direct path to something like cinema. There weren't film schools where you grew up. You probably hadn't been able to see much in the way of film or even of theater. You mentioned you were being shown like French films that didn't appeal to you because probably the images did not correspond to anything within your reality. I was wondering about that, what kinds of images one was exposed to in Morocco at that time, just before and just after independence.
Well, before it was films like, the cowboy films, or from India, Indian musicals, Egyptian musical comedies also. But at this cine club in the high school, which is after the independence, we were shown classical French films, and mainly these Carnet films. I don't know if you have seen this film, Les Visiteurs du Soir, very gloomy film, and of course it at the epoch of the castles and chevaliers and all that, and
knights in armor.
And so it was really so far from my world, or far from what I expected to see, and we had to talk about that and to analyze that, and that it didn't appeal to me at all. But theater rang a bell of its literature, and I come from a poor neighborhood in Casablanca, which is Derb al-Baladia, which is the center of Casablanca, but not rich area, and my escape was reading and literature. And I discovered theater by reading theater plays. This opening about literature was really the imagination, the free imagination for me. So even if it was French theater, I felt more connected with it. Molière is quite simple at the first approach, and that was the bridge to get into that.
So you had to pretend to do math in order to do theater, and then you had to study economics before you could actually study theater in Paris. And then after studying theater, now I want to know how you got to film.
Well, I wrote this play which won a prize. So it was produced to make a little tour. And it was produced, so I directed it, and I built up a company, and I had among the actors the future Moroccan director, also Jilali Farhati from Tangier. And after a few performances, we toured. It was a mini tour, and I was behind the scenes and doing the lighting, etc. And I realized that my staging was kind of cinematic staging. I would have a dialogue starting near the backdrop, and then the actors would move. There were a group of four characters, and some would move to the center and even to the proscenium with two of them, and one would go in the audience and sit with and I discovered that night, one of the performances, that it was really a cinematic cutting from large shots to close-up. And it appeared like that. It was like, to me, it's how it really happened. It just like, what happened to Claudel behind the Notre Dame pillar. He had this inspiration came, and, I realized that it is cinema that I should do.
You realized you had been basically directing a film on a theater stage.
Yeah, or like Molière would say, doing prose without knowing I was doing it. And so I decided to study, in order to be quick, to study cinematography, to be able to master the technique. That would help me a lot. And then I studied cinema in Brussels at the National Institute of Cinema.
ANSAS,
that's right. And that was the opening, gate to. And even in Brussels, it was also a melting pot. I worked mainly with people from Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, etc. And we worked. We made a little group. And then when I came back to Paris from Brussels, so we continued on.
When you say we had a group, was the group doing projects together, or what kinds of things? Yeah,
we did small things, like each one we would help each other producing. One would write, and another one would bring his camera and be cinematographer, and another would be the actor. And we were how do you say?
Multitasking.
Yeah, because we could.
Everybody was a jack of all trades. You each did a little bit of everything.
And we had to have that configuration because we didn't have much money, and it was the only way. And we produced works that did not last, of course, but for us they were very important because it's doing that made us think about what's the next step. It's not just the urge of shooting, of having the first false good idea, but then it is a work of writing. It is hard work. And it was a very good school, these little groups. Very good school because even without having an exposure to general audience, our works were discussed among us. And it made us really aware of the importance of work, hard work, before showing our films or short films, etc., to the audience.
And it was different than the experience of school, like being in the film school.
Yes, the film school was mainly just to master a technique. These groups were to say, I have this urge of telling this story, and I want to see it on screen. And from the beginning, I was always very attracted by documentary. This is thanks to a teacher I had, the late Guylain Cloquet, who was a huge cinematographer. I think he won an Oscar for Tess, Polanski Tess, I think. He was the cinematographer of the Nouvelle Vague. And he was a believer of the importance of documentary, of what he called la culture du pauvre.
Poor man's culture.
Poor man's culture. He was not much of a theorist, but he was not very much talkative. But the few things he would say, they were engraved, and they are still engraved in my mind, And I started making this small documentary. It's the documentary approach, what I called the documentary school, which is a school of modesty, because you have to, how do you say, avouer?
To admit?
You have to admit that you are ignorant. And there is no shame, and say, I am ignorant. And by saying that, by admitting that, it opens the door to the path toward knowledge. Because if you admit that you are
that you don't
ignorant, and I want to know, and I am going to on this path of knowledge, and ultimately I'll be an expert on that subject. That's documentary. It's not like in fiction. It's easy. You say, I am the Deus ex machina. I can do anything. This is my will. The character I wrote it. The actor is here for me to do this, and it's let's say it's an illusion. Okay, cinema is illusion, but you shouldn't be illusioned yourself. Otherwise, you won't make a good illusion. So documentary is really a very healthy way of discovering the world, looking at the world, and seeking something which is really, really very important, is the rightness of things, because that's what is the passport to be heard or to be seen or to exchange or to make things evaluated, hated, loved. It's in the right way, because this is a very, very important point of view. I hold, because it's all my life. It has guided my approach. If I take this stand and jump on the stage and say, listen to me, I want to show you something, I want to give you my point of view on this, my responsibility is to be right. If I am not right, if I am just a manipulator, it's not good. I better do politics then, or do something else.
It's interesting because you talk about this as a documentary approach, not necessarily a genre, because your films tend to escape the strict box of a genre, right? Like when you say documentary, it doesn't mean you're making a straightforward documentary, but it's more like an approach to a subject or to making an image.
That's right. It's more a philosophy of writing, a philosophy of dealing with the subject, and ultimately having this exchange with the audience. But nevertheless, I revendiquer.
I claim
the right to transgress borders. I hate to being, categorized in it. This should be documentaries should be this, or fiction should be this, or I don't know. If you speak about trances, you cannot put it in a case, because it escapes the frame. And this is what I feel at ease with. It's not a posture of mine, or to do it just to be, spotted at. It's how I am in my way of thinking.
I'd like to talk about your first film, your first feature film, Alyam Alyam, Oh the Days, 1978. Because we've just been talking about how you built your approach, the different studies you did, the groups you were part of, the learning the trade, learning to think and learning to make collectively. But during all of that time, you were mostly in Europe, Paris, Brussels, Paris. And then I guess there is a moment in which you confront the reality of the ground in Africa, in Morocco, where you shot your first film. I'm interested in that moment.
Well, it was a meeting with Jean Rouch, the late Jean Rouch was started. We were talking movies, and I remember saying that I am really interested by the documentary approach, and he said, "Go on, go to see." I mean, he said things really so, like if he was repeating my teacher's words in the culture of the poor. Go to see the poor, not just talk about the poor. Go. And in my mind, I would say, where are the poors? where to meet the poors? And in the early 70s, Europe seemed to discover the immigrants. Oh, they exist. And they started to talk about the immigrants like they talk about some weird thing, how the immigrant is and what he eats and what he wears and what he this and where he lives, and many films started being made on immigrants. And then I said, these immigrants, before being this object of study, they were somewhere. They were human beings, like any other human being. And it became obvious to me that if I want to meet the immigrants, I should not meet the immigrant in Europe. I should meet the would-be immigrant. Why would he be a would-be immigrant?
Before immigrating.
Before immigrating.
Back home.
And what makes him a future immigrant? And that is really the subject of Alyam Alyam. So I took my still camera and I went in the region of Casablanca with farm workers, future would-be immigrants. As you know, the plain of the Shawia is a very fertile soil, but the people who work in these farms, they don't benefit from what this rich soil gives because they are poorly paid, etc., etc. And the attraction of Europe of being a future immigrant becomes very strong, and so that period, at that time, being a would-be immigrant was only for this class of poors,
rural
workers,
farm workers.
Many decades later, if I speak about Morocco, or I could speak about Algeria, whatever, in Africa, this syndrome of would-be immigrant has been, let's say, like a contagious, and it's the whole society, every class, even those privileged. Among them, you have would-be immigrants. They become immigrants, of course. So I started then with these farm workers with my still camera and listening, and really what Guylain Cloquet said, go meet the poor. Jean Rouge said, go to see these people, taking pictures, talking to them. And the story began to build up. And I would take pictures and then come back, because they were, at that time, it's not digital, so I had to make, develop the things and show it to them. And that going back and forth was really very, very helpful to the story to build up. From the beginning, I wanted to have actors playing these people, these workers. So the more I was meeting them and interacting with them, the more I became convinced that I should give them the chance to voice. And then I started really working on who is going to impersonate who. And
among them, not actors, just them.
And as I told you, being a transgressor, I was doing a fiction film with a documentary approach and asking non-professional actors to play roles. It's himself as a worker, but it's not his family. Or, for instance, if you remember, the mother, she plays the character of mother who doesn't want her son to leave. But in the real life, this lady, she would give half of what she had to have her son leave. But she was convincing. as an actress, entre guillemets.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about a few words, my dispositive of working with them.
And would you say, I don't necessarily want to talk too much about trances, and we need to end the conversation, but perhaps we can still say something about, moving from the first film to the second one. Because also, one thing I could say is that at that time in Moroccan film, there were very few feature films had been made, very, very few.
To the point that Alyam Alyam was the first Moroccan film to be shown in Cannes.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people would make one first feature film and then, it would be very difficult to make a second one. These are films that you made with very little money, with very small teams. But how do you think of your second film in relation to the first one? Did it develop naturally from that experience, or was it a completely different? In terms of course, the subject is very different, but in terms of your approach, in terms of how you were as a director making a film.
Well, I had this, as I told you, I went to the film school to master technology. And for me, it's very important to be auto-sufficient. Self-sufficient. Because at that time and even now, there were no producers, no producer who would invest in making a Moroccan film. So you had to invest your own money. I didn't have money, so I invested my technology. And Alyam Alyam, it's a crew of 3. This crew of 3 is the same crew, with maybe adding one member that made Trances.
Mm.
In Alyam Alyam, I had met, her, Isa Gelini. She really became passionate about Alyam Alyam. So we had...
she distributed it.
Yeah, that's right. We had this history together, distribution of Alyam Alyam, showing Alyam Alyam places and having Grand Prix, etc., and becoming mini stars somewhere. And as she knew that I knew the band Nass El Ghiwane, she asked me to shoot one of their concerts. And the idea of making a film on Nass El Ghiwane started just when she asked me that. I said, a concert, no, but a documentary on Nass El Ghiwane, yes. And she said, go ahead. And she gave me all the freedom, not money, but she gave me freedom, which is really very, very important to do whatever I wanted or I imagined. And I did the same approach with the different members of the band as with the farm workers.
Mm.
Gaining confidence, led by this important rules like rightness, to be right, and to
be right. Is that in the sense of fairness, like to be?
No.
It doesn't mean to be right in the sense avoir raison.
No, not avoir raison. Not fairness is to be true.
Mm.
It's more true, the true image.
Truthfulness.
Mm. And it's we know that it's the hardest thing is to find truth and truthfulness behind the different layers of an image is the real work of what I consider filmmaking. How, from one layer to another, find what you can say, oh, I just arrived. This is truthfulness. That I can, without any guilt, show it
seems to me a very good place to end. Thank you very much, Ahmed.
Thank you, Omar.